Balthazar Gerard and his horrific torture. Philip of Spain placed a bounty on the head of Dutch Prince William. July 10, 1584, after dinner in his home, William went downstairs, where Gerard suddenly stepped out and fired one of a two-wheel lock pistol at William's chest. He collapsed and died on the spot, and Gerard fled, but he tripped over some rubbish and was caught. He did not deny his actions as he was tried and found guilty. The court ordered that Gerard be tortured for 3 days. On the first, he was hung with his hands tied behind him on a pole and raised and dropped, dislocating his shoulders. Then he was flogged with a bullwhip. The wounds were smeared with honey, and a goat was brought to lick them. And with the goat's rough tongue, that was not an approach that anybody would have wanted to have to deal with. And then it was rubbed with salt. The next day, it was hung from a pole, and 300-pound weights were tied to each one of his big toes for 30 minutes. Shoes made of uncured leather were put on his feet and placed into a fire, the heat of which contracted the shoes, crushing the bones in his feet. The next day, they were ripped off, taking his cooked flesh with him. The branding irons were then pressed into his armpits. His pectoral muscles were cut out. The wounds were rubbed with salt. Pins were shoved under his fingernails and toenails. Then he was fitted with a shirt soaked in alcohol, and burning bacon grease was poured all over him. July 14th, pincers were used to tear off his flesh. This seemed to be a pretty common trait back then. Then his right hand was burned off with a red-hot iron. Then his belly was ripped open. His intestines were pulled out. His genitals were sliced off, and his arms and legs were hacked off. His lips were seen to be trembling until his chest was cut open, and his heart was ripped out and flung into his face.